There we go. All right, so we will have recording in session. Okay, so everyone sees that we've got recording in session. And we're good to go. Joy, why don't you go ahead and start us off with introductions.
All right. So welcome, everybody. We are so excited to have you here. Like Kesley said, we are sisters. We have been lifelong crafters our whole life. We owned a scrapbook store a long time ago. And Kesley teaches online classes for Cricut. She teaches online classes at Michael's. I myself have been in the craft industry in all different types of ways. I'm a huge knitter, and we are here to talk about the patriotic hat that we have come up with. We were traveling in Iceland about 2 weeks ago when everything started to happen and Kamala Harris got announced as the potential new president, running for president. And we said, we have to do something. We were involved with the Pussy Hat Project in 2017, and we knew that we needed to help make a statement and help design a pattern that we could use to knit our hats and then teach people how to knit these hats. So not only are we here to talk about it, but we've also written a pattern and made a YouTube video that went live today. So we'll give you a link in the chat to that YouTube channel. And then we'll talk about how to knit and how to crochet and how we can all get involved in making hats for Harris and just be part of the marches, whether that's in Washington, D.C. or in your local area, how you can either make extra hats to donate or how you can make hats and go to a march. So that's kind of where we're starting out. And thank you all for joining us. We are thrilled.
Very thrilled. I also want to let everybody know our chat is live. So if you have any questions or thoughts or ideas, you can drop them into the chat. I do have Katie here, and she's helping us on the back end, answering all of your questions or anything you have in the chat live. Now we also have Gary here, and I'm going to go ahead and spotlight Gary here. We'll put him in front and center. All right, Gary, I think you have the floor for a second.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to see everyone. My name is Gary Boston. As you can hopefully see on my name somewhere, I'm on Instagram and YouTube as Gary Knits, Gary Rides. I'm a knitter and a crocheter, and I have a podcast that's all about craftivism. And so this warms my heart to see everyone crafting and doing something political this evening. So congratulations on doing this. It sounds like it's going to be an amazing project. I also was involved with the Pussy Hat Project back in 2017. I think it actually brought me back to knitting. I mean, I'd always been a knitter for a long time, but people who knew I was knitter was like, oh, can you make me one? Can you make me one? I think I ended up making 40 of them and sending them all across the country. So thank you to Kat and the Pussy Hat Project for sort of getting my knitting mojo back, and it's been full steam ahead since then. Kesley and Joy asked me to come on tonight just to talk a little bit about another project that is going on that may be of interest to many of you. Actually, it's kind of a two-pronged project. One part of it is called Makers for Kamala, and I'm going to drop in the chat just the information there. But that's the name over on Instagram is Makers for Kamala, and there's a group of us that are putting together one of these big live stream Zooms. It's going to be on the 15th of September, 5 p.m. Eastern time. We're calling it Makers for Kamala because we wanted it to be as broad as possible. Mainly being organized by a bunch of knitters and crocheters right now, but we're hoping to bring on the quilters and the sewists and the potters and the Cricut people and the woodworkers and everyone. So we are trying to put together a program that is going to encompass all of those, and hopefully, fingers crossed, maybe get a celebrity who also is a crafter or two in there just to generate some momentum. So stay tuned for that. Go follow us over at Makers for Kamala on that. The other piece of it is called Makers for Harris, being run by a woman named Molly Lee, who runs the Optimistic Soap Co. And she is basically any maker, pattern maker, yarn dyer who has a product that they are making and using as a fundraiser for the Harris campaign. She's spotlighting that in the Makers for Harris account. So every day over there, there's new stuff going on with people who have Cat Ladies for Kamala t-shirts that they've made, different things like that. So two prongs of kind of the same project, just to build some enthusiasm and momentum among the making community for the campaign, so that we can all, you know, show up and make this thing happen. So I really appreciate you giving me the chance to share that. If there's any questions, you can find me on Instagram. Happy to answer those for you there. Or if anyone wants to throw things in the chat, I should be here for a while, and then I got to run have dinner with my in-laws. So
Awesome. And yeah, Gary, if you need to pop back in and answer live, like if you're getting the same question over and over again, we will have some pausing moments when we're doing our stitching. So we'll be able to throw you back up on the camera.
okay, absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna grab my knitting and work on it here, and grab a glass of iced tea right now. But then if I'll be around for, like I said, for a while, and if not, you can always find me over on Instagram, and happy to answer questions there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So let me grab Joy and myself back here. So the plan for this evening is to let's get you in there. Okay, so Joy mentioned we were in Iceland, and we kind of got this crazy idea, as two sisters do. She knit these gorgeous sweaters for each of us when we were in Iceland, and in the Icelandic the pattern and everything. She can talk more about that, but that's not what we're here for tonight. But we were in Iceland looking for yarn, and funny enough, in the grocery store in Iceland, we found yarn. And as we were walking through this little cute, quaint town where we had like a plethora of yarn options, we started talking about how excited we were for Kamala Harris and how excited we were for the Women's March again. She mentioned, participated in 2017. And just one thing led to the other. And one of my personal missions has been to reclaim my flag, my patriotism. We're both Army brats, and we're really proud of being American and being in a foreign country where everyone's speaking English. And just like, it was just so nice to have a moment where we could be like, high five, it's good to be American. And so that's sort of where this particular hat pattern started, was in our intent to reclaim the flag. And as we've been posting this, we've seen more and more people like, yeah, I want my flag back. I want to be patriotic. I want to be able to fly my flag again. So that was really like our impetus to do this. And we grabbed our yarn and sat down and started working like right away. We were so excited. And so Joy has developed this pattern, and what she's going to do is give us any, new knitters. She's going to give us this knowledge to get started, and she's got the pattern and a follow-up video. So if we don't get to everything tonight, which we probably won't, she's got a follow-up video, and we've got more Zooms planned. So once you get started with this one, we have more Zooms planned for you. And you can come back and be like, hey, I was trying to do this and it didn't work. And so you're not going to be on your own. We are here with you. We are going to make lots of patriotic hats and share them for the November 2nd march and all of November as we get out the vote. And then when we have Kamala's inauguration. So Joy, I'm going to throw it over to you if you want to go over the supplies and get us started.
Yes. So, so as Kesley mentioned, we will tip of the iceberg here tonight. And I know that we have people who have been knitters for a long time, and we have some people who have never knit before. So what we want to do is just sort of introduce the supplies that we're using, different options that you have in purchasing your supplies, and then kind of talk about a cast on. Now, in doing this, I made a YouTube video because I know there are lots of steps that we like to follow, lots of information to have. So we're going to put that link in this chat that we have going on. And if you like, after the video, after our Zoom meeting, you can go there. You can watch every single step to making this hat from start to finish. And then I also have extra videos on my YouTube channel. Just if you have never knit before, if we're moving too fast today, if you need more information, if you just need to understand what needles am I buying, what yarn am I buying, and why do they matter how they go together, all of that information is on that YouTube channel. So you can really dive in there and follow and find a lot of good information. I ask that you also subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can find both Kesley and I on Instagram. We'll give you that information as well. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got a spotlight on the hats. This is the hat that we actually made in Iceland, and we found some wool there. I have 2 different patterns that I'm going to be putting out because something we'll talk about is the gauge that you get with when you combine your needle and your yarn. It's going to make your knit a certain size, and that's going to make your fabric a certain size. So depending on what you choose, what materials you choose, you'll want to follow along with one pattern or the other. I just went ahead and separated them into 2 different patterns just to make it nice and clean and simple. The cool thing about this hat, I think even a beginner knitter can make it. We're doing a little bit of a rib stitch at the bottom. We have some knitting and some purling. Those are the 2 stitches that you need to know to learn how to knit. Those are the only real 2 stitches in knitting. It's just how you put them together, how you mix them up, and how you make them appear. So we combined knits and purls in the bottom, and then I'll teach you how to move from a red stripe to a white stripe to a red stripe. So we have those stripes. And then our field of blue. This is a little bit of color work. Some people might think it's too advanced for a beginner, but I'll tell you right now, beginners can do this. It's not too hard. And I'm going to do something that most people don't do. I'm going to show you the inside of the hat as well. And this is where a lot of the work happens. We're going to push some things to the backside, and I'm going to teach you how to float some color work right over that stitching so that you can make this cool hat. Now, like I said, this was the hat that we made from the wool in Iceland. I have put a link in several places to find this wool. It is something that you do have to, it's actually made in New Zealand. It is called Icewear, and it's from Icewear Garn. Garn is the word for yarn in Icelandic, and it's .is, and this is the super. And you can find it in all different colors, and it's really fun. It's a DK weight yarn. So if you're familiar with working with a DK weight yarn, I knitted this with a size 7 needle. This hat,
Joy,
yes.
sorry, I just want to jump in. For the supply list that we sent out, not
Yes.
our Icelandic supplies, can you give everybody the supplies that they should have on hand to knit along with us? And
Yep.
I also just want to jump in and say that don't worry if we don't get to the navy part with the hearts, because that is in Joy's video. So tonight we're really going to focus on that ribbing and getting everybody started.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So this particular hat is the one that we've made with our American supplies. And this we made with Red Heart yarn. This is an acrylic yarn. It's a weight of 4, and we're using a size 8 US knitting needle. And I did that with a 16-inch circular needle, and it's a size 8 US, which is a 5 millimeter internationally. And then this is Red Heart yarn that comes in a big, like I came home and I was like, okay, let me get all the colors because I need all the colors. So this is a package that you can get on Amazon, and it's from Red Heart. I've used a number of the colors, but it comes with all these cute little mini skeins that are about 100, what's it say? They're about 100 yards each. And it's like the perfect amount of wool to use. So these are 100, yeah, they're 93 yards. So just about 100 yards. And it comes in all different kinds of colors. One single skein almost makes a full hat. I did this one out of pink and then added just a little bit of orange at the top. So if you do purchase this particular pack, it's a great pack on Amazon, and that's linked in the YouTube video description. But you can also get the loops and threads in impeccable yarn at Michael's. And Kesley's got that right there. She's showing that to us. And then Kesley, I think you picked it in a medium blue, in a white, and a red. And that
Right.
is it's a 4-weight.
That's what I wanted to show people. When you talk about the weight of the yarn, I wanted to show them where that number is on their packaging. So you're just looking for that number 4, and then it'll tell you what size knitting needles you need and or what size crochet hook you need. So if you need to learn, if you didn't know how to read all these numbers and things on your yarn, that's what I just wanted to show you on that as an alternative. And as long as it's a number 4 weight, you're good to go.
Yes. And that's with the size 8 knitting needle. So, and that's the 16-inch. A 16-inch is a perfect round size for making a hat. So that's awesome. And then I have a pair of scissors that sits in my knitting bag all the time. It's a nice sharp pair of scissors. You'll need a stitch marker. I have one that's in the shape of a cat, so I thought that was And then you need a tapestry needle. This is a nice wide needle. This will help you weave in all your ends and do your Kitchener stitch at the end. I always recommend having a flexible measuring tape. And then I use a die as a row counter. We're not going too high in our rows here, so this kind of works nicely. It just sits around, and it's a nice, easy way to count my rows. So with those supplies in mind, we can go ahead and get started. And the pattern that we're using, I have posted this on Ravelry. It is also, we're going to link it in the chat. I have it on a Google Drive. We have it on Canva. We have it, it's linked in the YouTube video. I think we've tried to put it in as many places as physically possible. And I will also link it in my Instagram so that it's easy for you guys to follow on the kind of that link tree that I have on the backside of my Instagram. So this gives you all of your information. It gives you your finished length of the hat, the width of the hat, your gauge. When we talk about gauge, that's how many stitches you have in an inch, in a row, and in in your row and in your height. And then all your supplies are mentioned here, and then how to get started. So we are going to start by using our red yarn, and we're going to cast on 92 stitches. Do we have any questions so far that we need to answer before we kind of get started?
You know, Joy, I have a just a little question, and for our beginners, how do you start your yarn? Because there's one piece in here, and there's like some other places. So what do I have to roll it all into a ball? What do I need to do?
No, you don't have to roll a skein into a ball. It's already done for you like this. So there are 2 ways that you can do it. You can do a center pull. So if you look down the center of your yarn, and I'm sorry, my lighting's a little bit dark, but you can kind of pick through here and find the end, and then you can just pull right from the center of the skein of yarn. That's not always my favorite way. I know it's a lot of people's favorite ways, so that's a way. But I find that the skein collapses a little bit on me, and then I get it knotted when I move around and stick it in a bag. So I just pull the band right off the skein of yarn, and then I look for the piece that's just right here on the outside. And the downfall of that is that it kind of rolls around a lot, but I'm okay because I get a bowl from the kitchen or stick it in between the couch sections or something so that it doesn't roll around too much on me. But you have different ways that you can pull that yarn and get it started.
Okay, Joyce, I have a couple questions before we get started. Jennifer would like to know, are we really doing in the round? Jennifer, I feel you. Can I use straight needles?
Yes, we are really doing in the round. And I totally get it. And Kesley said that when we were in Iceland. She's like, Joy, are you for real? And here's the thing. The round might seem scary. There's one part that's a little bit scary where you have to make sure that your knitting is facing the right direction. But I'm going to teach you how to join in the round, how it's going to look perfect, and then you're just going to scoot around and knit, and you don't have to purl. The only place you have to purl is in your ribbing.
So what if somebody did want to use straight needles? Is if they're an experienced knitter, is that okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I would suggest in that case is that you would go back to the original Pussy Hat project and use that pattern. Cat has made a really good pattern, and then you can kind of adjust for where, and you can see how we add the color work in there. The only thing about the color work in if you're going to do it flat is that you want to make sure that you're purling back on a row that's a solid color. And then when you're doing your color work that you're knitting, when you're adding that color in, you will have to, you'll have to cut your yarn, and you'll have quite a few little ends to work in, but anybody can do it. Yes.
So I'll tell Jennifer, I'm going to do it in the round. Joy is encouraging me to do it in the round. So I'm going to do it in the round. So if I have trouble, I'll tell Joy where we need to fix it, what more information we need. So Joy, one other quick question. Rachel has DK weight. Can you tell her about how many stitches she needs to cast on?
116.
Woo! Girl,
Yep.
get stitching. All right.
Yes, so it's not that much of a difference. The pattern that you're using, and I'll just kind of show you here, the chart that I've made is based on a 4-count repeat. So as long as you're able to divide the number of stitches that you've cast on by 4, you're going to be fine in order to get your 2 knits, your 2 purls, and your pattern repeat in there.
Great.
And don't be afraid of this chart. Just this is where you can play. And the beautiful thing about knitting to me is if it doesn't work out, you just rip it out and start over again. The only thing, and I say this about crafting all the time, the only thing that you're using is your time, and you were going to knit anyway. So just have fun, enjoy it. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, and really, really just make it about having fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to cast on 92 stitches, and we're going to start with we're going to do a long tail cast on, which I like because it's a nice stretchy cast on. And for the
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you put your hands up about 4 inches?
Up?
Yeah, towards the top. There you go. Not up towards the camera, but up towards the top.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Better?
Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So the first thing we need to do is kind of figure out how much yarn we need to have on our front side in order to do that long tail cast on. And the way I do that is I just wrap the yarn around my knitting needle. Each time I wrap it, that's about 1 stitch. So this represents 2. So you would wrap 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. And then that tells you about how much yarn you need for 10 stitches. And we're going to do 92. So we're just going to take this and loop it over itself 9 times. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'll do just a little bit more. So that's enough to cast on about 92 stitches. And I want to move my skeiny yarn away from my body and have my excess yarn that I just measured out towards my body.
Okay, so Joy, as you're casting, go ahead. Show us how to do the slips. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. There's a couple different ways to do a slip stitch. So I'm going to show you a couple of ways. And again, if you don't catch this the first time, it's on my YouTube channel that you can see it. But a slip stitch, if you just want to do a basic one and you want to set it on the table, it's kind of easy this way. You just cross one end over the other, and then you're going to reach through your loop and grab your working yarn and pull it up, and then just pull your two tails together, and that will create a slip stitch. And a slip stitch is basically a stitch that you can tighten or loosen. So that's how you, and then you put that right onto your knitting needle and you can get started that way. I also like to do a long tail kind of version of that, where I take my two fingers and pinch the yarn down at the bottom of my hand. And I take my knitting needle and push it across the top of the needle. And then I come over here to my thumb and I scoop up the yarn that's by my thumb. And then I scoop up the yarn that's by my finger. And then that forms a little triangle. I'm so sorry, this is dark. We're getting towards the dark part of the day.
You're doing great, Joe. We can see it.
Oh, you can? And then that comes right up and gives you that piece right in there. And that can make a slip knot too. So either way. All right, so I have that yarn towards my body and the yarn towards the skein. And I've got one stitch on. We're going to do 92. So the motion is really in your wrist of your left hand. And then your right hand is just kind of tilting a little bit back and forth. So I just hold my first stitch on with my finger and then do that same motion. Turn my palm up, scoop up the yarn by my thumb, and then scoop up the yarn by my finger. And then that is going to come right through the two, that's going to come right through your loop right there. Sorry, and I just had something happen with my camera. Oh,
Okay.
but you can still see. Okay,
Yeah,
it's
you're
good.
doing great.
Okay, so then we're going to come over here to your thumb, right up, like just scoop it up, and then by your finger, and then you're just pushing that yarn up through the loop by your thumb, and then you drop what's on your thumb and tighten it up. And that's 3. And then you're just going to keep doing this motion. You have 92 stitches on your needle.
Okay, now I'm going to add my spotlight to you, Joy, because you would think, since we're sisters, we both would do it the same way. But
You're
I
going to do it mom's
differently.
way.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to do it. So, funny story. When my son was about 5 years old, he I think my mom was up early in the morning and she was knitting and she started to teach Ryan how to knit, my 5-year-old. Fast forward, he ended up working and making a knitting video for kids. So I'm going to teach you his way. So his way, you take you hold your yarn in your 3 fingers, just like that. And then with the needle, you wrap the yarn around your thumb. So it kind of crosses there at the base of your thumb. And then you take your needle and you stick it through your thumb wrap. And you kind of have to come back and hold your needle again. And then you, oops, wrong way.
That,
What am I doing wrong? Here, I have my thing in the wrong spot. Sorry. Let me come down here. All right, let me do my slip knot again. Okay, so Ryan's way is you wrap it, you stick it, and then you wrap it again, and you pull it through. So you wrap it, stick it, wrap it, pull it. And that's how you do your cast on. Wrap it, stick it, wrap it, pull it. And that's Ryan Anderson's way of doing it.
and how old is Ryan Anderson now?
Well, now he's a full-grown adult, no longer knitting or crocheting to
Oh.
his mother's sadness. But maybe we'll get him back into it.
You never know.
You never know. But it does go to show, like, I mean, just think about it, guys. If a 5-year-old is motivated to learn how to do this, then we can all do it,
That's for sure.
right? Now, Joy, we did have a question. Somebody was using a bulkier weight fiber, a 6 weight, which is a bit bulkier. Do you know about how many you would recommend they cast on to get started with that weight?
So I would say she's probably going to get 3 stitches per inch. And if you want your hat to be about 23 inches around, you would divide, sorry. If it's
Doing
3,
math.
I know, now I have to do math. You would multiply 3 times 23, which is gonna give you
69, 40, 69.
yeah, but then you need to have it so that you can divide by 4. So then you have to do a little bit more math, and my calculator is in my phone, and I don't declare to be a math smarty pants. Megan Coleman might be on this call, and
So
she's a math teacher, and she probably
it would be like, I think it would be like 17. I think it would
17.
be like 17. So Gary's saying 72. Gary, thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
All right. So how's
Divisible
everybody
by
doing?
4,
Hmm?
and that's divisible by 4.
We're gonna assume he pulled out his little math brain and did those
I
numbers.
love it. Thank you, Gary. Teamwork. It's see,
Right.
it's a village.
All right.
That's how you do the math. That's why the gauge matters, because how many stitches you have in the inch really do matter, because the stitches in the inch will say, all right, I have 3 stitches in an inch, or 4 stitches in an inch, or 5 stitches in an inch. And if you know the diameter of how big you want your hat to be, so you can measure your head and say, so when Kez and I measured our heads, we were about 23 inches. And then you're going to leave a little bit of, you want to take away a little bit of that for ease, because you don't want your hat to be too loose and floppy on your head. You want it to fit nicely. So then you would say, all right, well, I want my diameter to be this many inches, and I know I have this many stitches in that inch. And then that's how many stitches you know to put on your needle. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I never knew that.
Yeah.
And the funny thing, Joy and I have crafted together for so many years, and we craft very differently. I craft by the seat of my pants and go like, yeah, I think that'll work. I think that's how it is. And am overconfident in my crafting. And Joy is very much more meticulous, like she might, understands why you do something the way that you do it and everything like that.
It's my engineering. It's my wishful engineering brain.
So as you add your cast on stitches, you're just gonna push those down onto the, I don't know what you call those, the wire there. Just keep kind of pushing those down. You want to just make sure they don't fall off the end of your needle, but you'll just kind of keep pushing those down. And I always think like I tend to have like a tight hand when I knit. So you do, you'll get your comfort of what you're comfortable holding your yarn in your hand. In the extra yarn hand, you want it to be pretty loose. And then this is where you have the tension on the yarn that feeds into your ball of yarn. So you're gonna have that tension here, not so much on your looping thread.
Yes. Okay.
And I'm trying,
I'm going to pretend, I'm looking at the time, and I'm going to pretend I have 92 stitches on my needle so that I can show you how to join in the round, because I definitely want us to get to that part, and I want us to get to start knitting for the people who are a little nervous about working on round needles. So let's pretend I have 92 stitches on here. I didn't count them. The one thing that I want to do first and foremost is make sure that I don't have a twist anywhere in the stitches that are on my cable. So for instance, right here, I have a twist. So I would work these out. And basically a twist is when your knitting part is kind of wrapped around the needle and you don't have all your stitches facing in the same direction. You want them facing in the same direction because if you have a twist in your knitting, then science would say you have a Mobius, and that means that you will have an endless, like that figure 8, you know, that infinity loop that a lot of people get tattooed on themselves. That's kind of what you'd end up with. And you would knit something in an infinity. And that's actually can be a really cool scarf and something you might want to do. But in this case, when we're making a hat, we don't want to have a twist in the yarn. So we're going to be careful to make sure that we don't have a twist. And with this particular yarn, it hugs the needle pretty nicely. And you can see if you have that twist anywhere. So I've got this straight. And I am going to, now I said cast on 92, but I'm going to add a 93rd stitch to put this into the round. So I'm going to add one extra stitch. And then I am going to take my 2 needles and slip that very first stitch from the right side over to the left side. And I'm just going to take this little stitch back here and move him over so that he's on the same needle with the cast on stitches. And then I'm going to take that 93rd stitch that I just cast on, that extra stitch, and I'm going to pass that over that last stitch. And then I'm going to leave the last stitch as the beginning of my round. I'm going to lay this down and show you that if I take the tails of this yarn and just pull it, that will pull all of that knitting together. And then I get a nice tight starting point, and that's where I'm going to start my knitting. And that I think is one of the hardest things for people to kind of learn and to get comfortable with in knitting in the round. So if you can do that, you can do anything.
Trick, can you do that again?
Yes, I think so. Let me just undo what I did.
Okay. And like, just go real slow.
Yeah. I'll go
in case somebody's trying to follow along with you.
Yeah. So we'll go real slow. All right. So actually, undoing that was a little trickier than I thought, but we'll pretend. All right, just ignore that extra bit that I have there because that's actually supposed to be a little, here, we'll make him into a stitch. All right, so you're going to take that last stitch that you had on your right needle, the very end. Oh, actually, I have this all. Okay, hold on. Give me a minute, Kez.
Sure. That's great. I'll give you a minute and we will, I'll come back up here and kind of start to talk about, actually, Gary, I know you said you had to go, you had to go have dinner. Is there anything that we needed to add for you?
No, not that I can think of. This is this is having flashbacks to my first lesson of knitting when back when I was starting. So good luck to everyone. It gets easier definitely as you practice. It'll definitely get easier. But no, we'd love to have any and all of you join us on the 15th for our live stream. I think it's gonna be a really fun and inspirational night of creativity. And like I said, if you have any questions along the way, I'll pop right before I head off here. I'll pop my it's Gary Knits, Gary Rides, but I'll pop it down in the chat as well. I'm always available over on Instagram to answer any questions about what's going on and point you in the right direction.
All right. Thank you so much, Gary.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Appreciate your time and joining us tonight.
Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you so much, Gary.
All right. So
Okay.
while Joy's, oh, you ready?
I'm ready.
Fast.
But
All
we're
right.
just going to pretend. So when I undid it, I made a little bit of a mess, but we're just going to pretend that part isn't sitting there. Just pretend that that's our last stitch back here. And so this would be the first stitch that I cast on my right needle. And we're going to take that stitch and pass it over to that 93rd stitch that I just cast on. Whoops. And then we're going to take that stitch that I just cast on, and I'm going into that stitch and giving it a little pull and bringing it over the end stitch. And so basically we're taking that extra cast on stitch and just having it hug the neck of the end stitch. And then when you pull your ends together, it brings everything really tight. And when I pulled everything really tight, I ended up pulling some of the things out. So just make sure you have that right. And then that's where you will put on your stitch marker. And then you'll want to turn your work so that you have your tail facing you and your skein away from you. I'm actually going to switch my stitch marker over there. I did the same thing in the video. And then that's when you'll start knitting. So casting on is the first step, and then knitting is the next step. So to start knitting, we'll just pass, and we're going to do that rib stitch. So we're going to knit 2, and then we're going to purl 2. So passing the needle from the left side to the right side, and sliding the needle behind the loop of that stitch. Then you'll take your working yarn and slip it in between the 2 needles and give it a pull, and you can kind of feel it go clunk. And then you're going to slide your right needle backwards until you catch that little piece that went clunk in that knit, and then you're going to release that off the needle, and then you'll have your first stitch. And we'll do 2 of those knit stitches.
Joy, I'd love to see everybody's concentrating and working on their stitching. This is great.
I love it. I love it. I love that it's so cool to see so many knitters. And I know knitting can be hard at first. We all had to get through the beginning part. But once you get there and you're comfortable with knitting, it's really a good meditative practice, and it's so enjoyable to do. All right.
Go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
Okay. So then we're going to bring the yarn. Now we're going to do 2 purl stitches. So we're going to bring the yarn to the front of our work. And this time the purl stitch, you're going to pass your needle from the right to the left through the stitch. And then you're going to wrap the yarn around the needle and then pass that yarn through the loop.
Stick
Now,
it, wrap it, pull it.
Yeah, stick it, wrap it, pull it. And basically, purling is knitting backwards. You're knitting one way, and then you're purling. So you're wrapping everything in one direction, and then you're wrapping it all in the other direction. So knitting and purling are really those 2 stitches that you're going to use to knit with. And really, I'm not kidding. It's a combination of how you use those knits and purls that really create your knitting. So now I'll do my purls, and the first 3 rows that we do are knit 2, purl 2 in the red. So Kez, I think if we take a moment and look at the pattern real quick and show everybody how to read the pattern in the chart, I think that'll be
Okay.
really, really helpful.
Okay. And Katie, can you drop the link to that pattern again for us?
Okay, so there's two ways to do this. You can, I've written it in two ways. You can follow along for every single round exactly what you need to do. So this will say rounds 1 through 3, knit with red yarn in a rib stitch. And in parentheses, it'll say knit 2, purl 2. And the parentheses mean, in a knitting pattern, that means that you repeat that section over and over and over again. So because we've cast on 92 stitches, this is a 4 pattern repeat. 92 is divisible by 4. So you'll start with 2 knit stitches and you'll end with 2 purl stitches. And then you'll have knits and purls all the way around. So you're going to do 3 rounds of knit 2, purl 2. And then we're going to do a change to white yarn. And when we do that change, this is one of the tricks that we have in here. If you were just to continue with your knits and purls, you would actually force this purl stitch towards the front, and you'd end up with this, what would be on the inside, on the outside of your knitting. So instead of following with that pattern, knit 2, purl 2, we're actually going to knit a round of white. And then you'll do 2 rows of knit 2, purl 2. And then you'll switch to the red and you'll knit 1 round. And then you'll do 2 rounds of knit 2, purl 2. Then you'll switch to the white, 1 round of knitting, and then 2 rounds knit 2, purl 2. So if you look at this section in the pattern, I've got that written out, exactly what you do in each of those rounds. But I've also added a chart. And now some people might say, I don't know how to read a chart. I've never read a chart before. But in this chart, I've got the red, and I've written on here, you're going to knit, knit, purl, purl. And you're just going to repeat that over and over again around your round. Then when you get to your white, it says all knits in here. So you're going to knit around. Then your next round, you're going to knit, knit, purl, purl, knit, knit, purl, purl. And then that's how that chart is written out. Does that make sense to everybody?
It might not make sense to everybody, especially to our beginners, but as you go with it, you kind of just have to, I think for me, knitting is a lot of trust the process.
Yes.
So like, if I try and think about what I'm doing as I'm doing, it's kind of how almost all crafts are, right? You have to kind of just go like, trust the process. So as you're thinking about it, it can be a little daunting, but if you trust the process that, you know, by the time you get around, you're like, oh, now I see what it means. Sometimes, like, I think knitters are very visual. I'm a very visual person. So by the time I get to having the process done, then I'm like, oh, I get it. I understand.
Yeah, and
So just a little-
in the video, I definitely hit on that because I show how you stack your knits and your purls over each other. And I talk about, like, it doesn't make sense in the beginning. You won't exactly see it, but as your knitting progresses, all of a sudden you'll see this rib stitch kind of start to pull forward. And then you'll be like, oh, now I get how it works. And you can extend ribbing as far up as you want or as far down as you want. And then you can start to kind of play with those colors so that you can do different things.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me put that back to. Let me replace that spotlight. I was having issues there.
But yeah, so this is the same kind of as the Americana hat that we're doing. This is sort of Brat inspired for the Brat summer. But you're just doing your black, your green, your black, your green. And this is how I worked out how many stitches I needed and how many repeats I needed in order to figure out how to get this hat to work out. So,
Joy,
Trust me
Sorry.
when I say you don't always get it the first time around. It takes practice and it takes some tries. And that's what these are. These are some other tries, but there's so many different ways to make this hat that are really fun.
Joy, can you also, I know you're not at the point to change your color, but we only have a few more minutes left. Would you mind, for people who aren't familiar with knitting or newbies, can you show them how to change out from the red to the white when they're ready?
Yep. Yep. So it's super, super easy. Pretend we're at the beginning of our round here. We would take the first stitch and slip it. And the reason you do that is because you want your white to look even in the round. If you didn't slip that stitch, you would kind of get this jog. So you're going to slip that first stitch, and then you'll just go into your stitch just like you would normally, and you're going to pick up your new color and slip it right over your needle, and then start knitting.
And you just hold the two ends tight together?
Yeah, in the beginning for the first stitch, but then you're going to drop that tail because you don't want to knit with that. And then you'll just pick up your working yarn from your skein, and then you'll just knit and you'll purl just like you were doing before. You're just going to continue to do the same thing. So the thing that I do in this particular project is I did not, in between my colors, I did not cut the yarn off, because then you just have a little bit more work of having to weave everything in. So as I worked up that edge, I just would let one color drop and then pick it back up later. And you can see where I pull that color up, it sort of just trails along, and then it's there for me when I'm ready to start the white or to do the red. And then you just weave in only a couple of ends instead of having a bunch of ends to weave in. So this is the advantage of knitting in the round too, is that you have a little bit less work to do as you're going along. But again, everything is explained in the video, and you can watch the video, you can pause, you can follow along exactly, and you'll see all the steps. And I have moments where I explain a little bit more, but give it a pause. It is an hour and 28 minutes long, but it does take a while to explain all of this. So I wouldn't expect you to sit and watch it all at once. Watch a little bit, put it on pause, watch a little bit more, put it on pause, and you'll do some work, you'll come back to it, you'll do some work, you'll come back to it, but it will take you all the way through the process.
And I mean, I think we all learned so much from YouTube channels, and the pause button is really super helpful, because like you can, kind of zoom in on something and be like, where did that needle go? How did she do that? So it's really good for that step of it too. So we have more of these Zoom meetings planned. So we have a link that will drop in the chat that will take you to a little I don't know, an image that has all of, and with links on it, of all of our upcoming Zoom meetings, how we have planned right up to October 29th. So don't panic if you're like a little overwhelmed by this. We are here to help you and walk you through it. We just wanted to get it started and get it in your hands. So plan it. Hopefully you'll join us in other Zoom sessions. And we also, sort of like what Joy and I were talking about, and what we really enjoyed about 2017 was, first of all, seeing so many people across the country, really across the world, wearing their pink hats, and what an amazing statement that was. So we're kind of thinking that we want to create a way for us to volunteer to knit hats for other people, to pass them out to your friends, to your families, and things like that. So I do have a survey at the end of the class that, if you wouldn't mind filling out, that would be great. You can even add your email if you want to be included in that part of it. If you have questions, check out the video, and you can ask Joy questions in the video and be like, how did you do this? Or what about this? Or how do I do this? And she'll monitor those questions. That's a great way. Also, after a class, sometimes you're like, well, I wish I had asked this. That's your spot to ask those questions. And you know, we'd love for you to ask those questions.
And
As
if
we
we get, sorry, because if we get a lot of the same questions, I'll make a little short or I'll make an extra video. If there's something that I'm missing along the way, I want to give you guys as much information as you need.
I love it. Joy, we do have one question that I want you to answer with the DK weight yarn for Rachel in the size 7 needles. Did you add an extra row for each stripe, or were your stripes 3 rows?
No, that pattern is more rows. That is a good question because yes, because your rows are condensed too. So that pattern I will be putting just needed, I wanted to get past this Zoom meeting tonight, and I will put that into, I'll put it on Ravelry as well, and I'll also put it into the YouTube channel so that you have that pattern. But this is my trusty little notebook where I wrote all my little notes. And if
And
you're
the
ever
patterns
curious,
are free.
yeah, yes, the patterns are free. If you're ever curious what it looks like when somebody works on a pattern, this is kind of what it looks like. But I did, when I did that one, I did 9 rows of each. No, that's not right. That is not right. Let me correct myself. I did 5. So I knit 1 and then I did 4 of knit 2, purl 2, and then changed the color. But your first stripe is going to be 1 more because you're not doing that knit round. So there would be 5 total here in knit 2, purl 2. Then when you switch to the white, you'd have the 1 knit round and then 4 of knit 2, purl 2 and on up the way.
Also, I think Joy and I would both agree that as you get more comfortable with it, you'll muck things around and be like, I want to do it this way. I want to have my white stripes really big and my red stripes small, or I don't want any stripes in it. I just want it to be a solid color. So you'll be able to, after you make your first hat, you'll have a lot of skills at your fingertips to adjust and modify. Now,
And we want to see all of that. We want you to post on Instagram and use the hashtag Hats for Harris. And that way we can all start sharing with each other. And as we come back to these Zoom meetings, we want to give time for people to share, you know, what colors did you choose? Why did you choose the colors you chose? What, you know, what are you making and what are you doing, or how are you sharing information? We would love for you to share out that YouTube video to as many people as you want, because when in 2017, to get that sea of pink hats at that march, we had to share a lot. We had to share as much as possible. So that meant, you know, sharing links, sharing ideas, sharing everything. And we're all here to give of our time and to volunteer. Kesley and I are not here to, you know, we're just here to give as much as we possibly can and to help everybody.
so we're going to wrap up our session with a share session. If you have been knitting and you wouldn't mind being spotlighted, I've got the gallery view. And if you hold up your knitting, even if you've just done, like I only have just a little bit done so far on this new hat, just give it a hold up and I will spotlight you.
Oh, I love
awesome.
it.
Hold on, I'm going to share some of these.
All right. All right. Yes. Yes. Look at you go.
This
That's
is awesome.
amazing. I love it. You guys are
Keep 'em
doing
up,
it.
keep 'em up.
I
Keep 'em
love
up,
to
keep 'em
see
up.
this. Nice
Do we
work.
miss anybody?
Oh, and you're smart.
Oh,
Look
wait,
like
I
you're-
missed Sissy. Hold on. We're getting Sissy in there. All right,
She
Katie,
does.
you know what to do. Katie's going to screenshot this for us so we can see everybody working on their knitting.
Oh, I gotta hold up mine too.
Oh, wait, I've got one more to add. Hold on, let me get you, Cindy. Hold yours up again. All right, Dee, you want to hold yours up? Woo, let me get Dee in there. Hold on. Hold it up.
Oh, we got
All
some.
right, you guys are going to have to work out yarns
Nice.
next time.
You guys are the
All
best.
right. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Joy, any last words?
You can follow me, Joy McDonnell, on Instagram, the YouTube channel. Kesley, how do we follow you?
I'm Kesley.365. I might have seen a bunch of you in Pantsuit Nation. So thank you to Pantsuit Nation for spotlighting this and helping us get the word out. And you guys rock. I know what you guys, I know I'm gonna like get off this and go see what I missed. We didn't even talk about the convention. So maybe some of you have it on in the background or whatever, but I was so pumped last night. I can't wait to see what I missed tonight, and I'm gonna go catch up.
Yes, we are so excited to have you guys. Thank you all so very much. This inspires. Kesley and I really thought, we were like, oh, maybe if 2 people join us. So we're just thrilled. We're really thrilled.
And see everybody next time.
Thank you.
Oh, I can't end it. Okay, there we go.